Hello, my name is Victor Castillo, and this is my final. To begin, I is will be research. My research processes on my answer to that is I'll go from what I knew before to what I learned this semester and how I'll apply it into the future. Uh, what I knew before was like research. Most of the research we went on to look for was on the internet, usually just secondary sources, and they always told us that it has to be from a reliable source. Someone that's basically when we always found information that we already knew with very little to no new information that we didn't. Um, n- no primary research was ever for the majority of it was never conducted to find the answer to our questions. And our limit was that there was no Wikipedia allowed to be, that was allowed to be used. And from what I learned, uh, I learned that primary research can be very valuable to finding answers to your question. And like in my graph here, I made a graph of the interview questions that I asked during my research process, and well, these are the answers. So this is an organized way of keeping track of my interviews and the research. This wasn't based off the secondary resources because this is basically the way of fixing a gap that I found in my secondary sources. Another thing that I knew was knowing a reliable source, which is why the crap sheets were used for. Here with the crap sheets, we found information on the author if they're legit, and one big important thing that helped if they were reliable sources was was a peer-reviewed or referred aspect of it, which was when you it was peer-reviewed, meaning someone that has experience in that subject or with higher authority has reviewed it and verifies it as a very reliable source. Um, Another thing that I learned was finding gaps which is where the critique and research came in worksheet came in to do this. And this one, it's an easy way to just summarize all of the sources and just like what was one thing that they didn't have in common, what was one thing that was missing from them. And like in this one, in mine, it was like they really never did interviews. It was mostly surveys or observations. So interviews was more like to get in depth of what goes on through their mind. Why do they do like use their phones and stuff like that. And another thing that really helped was keeping, well, one thing was the mapping. It helped with keeping notes and comparing and contrasting all my sources and having a general idea of how I want to do the things for the interview, which is my primary research and for my research paper. Okay, next one is learning with peers. Oh wait, no, back to the how I'll apply into the future. It Well, the way I'll apply it is I'll be more better prepared for future experiences with my research processes, especially when I'm looking for secondary sources, so I can know I'm getting reliable information, something I can actually use to support my cases during when answering a question or when writing an essay on the subject. I think that for the long run, I think will help a lot. Also, the crap sheets are helpful for being able to, again, find reliable sources. And also, the mapping, again, it helps me put all my ideas together. It's kind of like brainstorming, but like it helps more than brainstorming did back in high school because I get all my ideas and into one. Okay, now the next one, which is learning with my peers. What my experience with working with peers has been both bad and good. And well, from what I knew before back in high school, it was never easy to work in a group. It was mostly because of the different opinions we all had on the subject, on what we should do or not. And then one has one idea and one doesn't like it. Or usually when we're grouped up, It's for a small little tiny project, not like this semester where it was like a whole semester long. To where we had to sometimes work together, but we were on our own as well. Or because also compared to high school, usually the groups will last for like a class period long, just for some small worksheet or small idea project. And then it we really never learned back in high school. We never like learned from each other or gained information. We just did it with information that we already knew. So I can't say it was learning. It's more like just working together. Again, some it's the same, but I think it's different. From what I learned working with my peers was I was able to share sources with them and this group. With this group, uh, we had our separate folder where we kept all our crap sheets. We put our research and stuff here, so if we ever needed to use someone else's sources, we could to help our own. Since my group was somewhat similar, we were able to use these effectively. Uh, Working as a group, it helped it helped cooperate on how we can do a research. I know two of us like not really separated from the subject, but kind of had different ideas on the research we wanted to do, but they were entirely similar. And um, again, just shared resources. Also, working with peers made it fun and good ways to get ideas, have help from them if they need it, or help each other. The way I can apply it, well, I think from this semester, I think a way to improve on it would be try to have backups in case something goes wrong. Like if it's a project or like when you're working together and you have to go separately on doing your own thing, have a backup in case something goes wrong. Also, try to work with your teammates if um, communication is a big factor to it. If you're not communicating with them, you can like be like out of like not focused or like not there with equal to everyone else. Like for example, like they could have discussed something without you and you were like without knowing what they were sharing on in the information that you got. And for my peer feedback process, well, from what I know, again, back to my experience in high school, it was mostly like just one like little one side comment. Like they read your paper like, oh, here's a comment and that's it. Or like it like the comments were like a post-it long, like a small little post-it. And usually it was never about your writing. It was just like, oh, it's good. That's good writing. Or like or like good job or a small little grammar error here. And it was mostly like whatever you thought about the writing, if it was good, bad. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It usually, again, the feedback was mostly on grammar. The teacher never explained like, oh, the only thing the teacher ever said was like, give feedback to your peers on what they wrote, but they never said what should we say to them. We just did it. We just like wrote whatever came to our mind, and just to get it over with. And it's not like the way it was this semester, where I think it was much more helpful, like way more helpful compared to high schools, where before, like from this is to what I learned was before getting feedback, it's always helpful to point out where you want the help in, because people then if you just like, can you help me write this? Like, what part? What do you want me to help you with? It's the whole paper. It can be like 10 pages long or so. So it's very good to like show that a way to help them out. Like here in my research essay, here's the comments. I needed help in this part of the essay, so I commented for help. on the subject. Um, Another thing that I learned was you had to say what kind of feedback you would want and on the section and what kind of changes you might want. Like here in mine, it was in this paragraph, what I did is use one source to support another source, and I really haven't done much to fix it. And so I was thinking I'd either separate them in their own paragraphs or talk about each article separately or add more detail from both articles. I just needed a bit of help. I didn't know if I should like keep them together because this is I put two sources together because my first two paragraphs were based on separate sources because those were like the most important ones that gave me more information. Well, I combined these two because they were minor ones, but they were still useful. And I just wanted to help if I should like separate them or keep them together because the first two again already explained what I wanted. Another was that the response has to have like the response that the person is giving you has to be a solution to the problem that you have, or like can rewrite everything that they have. Like it can give options too of like you should do this or this. Like in whose comment? In this comment, Emilio, so I see what you're trying to do, but I usually do is start my conclusion with a transition sentence so we can see that you're trying to tie off the paper in a neat way. So what that means is if you can start off your conclusion with your research question and bring the paper into a full circle, or you can use a quote that has something to do with your topic and explain it in your own words to use it in your favor, or you can try adding more information about your findings. This is like actually useful because I can actually choose between those two, and in the end, well, I'll change it to what I prefer and like the most. And it won't make it as difficult. It gives me an idea of what I can do. It's something I would have never thought of before, especially if I haven't made a change. And well, the ways I would apply this to the future is I so pretty much it'd be more helpful when anyone needs help. When they need like, can you help me on my feedback? Like, give me feedback on this part. I'll be like, can you a specific section and then what kind of help would you like so I can like come up with ideas already when starting to read the subject. Also, like if I ever find another problem in that person's writing, I can also give them suggestions of what they can do or or I can rewrite them for them if if they really need help. And so yeah, that's my final and hope I did good.